San Francisco 49ers tight end George Kittle had himself a day on National Tight Ends Day that netted him 6 receptions, 128 receiving yards, and a touchdown. Now, while it was a fantastic day for George, it also marks I think, a historic accomplishment for a tight end in a Kyle Shanahan scheme. I mean, we all know that, George is, a great wide receiver. Like, he's really good as a receiving threat, but he is really used a ton as a blocker. When you think of the parallels of how Travis Kelce is used in his offense and the production he's able to get, it's still wild to think that George Kittle is now third in franchise history in receiving yards, only behind Jerry Rice, who, as we know, is the GOAT, Terrell Owens, another Hall of Famer, and then you got George. Just what an unbelievable career for George. As you can see, 6,777 receiving yards, 43 touchdowns. That puts him third in the franchise ranking of receiving yards on a season passes Dwight Clark. What a phenomenal situation this has turned into for George. I mean, we're talking about a 5th round draft pick, tight end out of Iowa. I have a special connection to George in the sense of he was a draft crush of mine. He was one of those draft crushes where I was very, very, very high on, and no one else saw the vision. Because let's face it, at Iowa, he had less than 800 receiving yards over 4 seasons, and I was comparing him and comping him to guys like Greg Olsen, who was fresh off of 3 consecutive 1,000-yard seasons, and people were calling me insane. And I got blocked by a national draft analyst because we got into an argument about how good I thought George Kittle was, and he thought I was crazy. Um, and so, man, it has been quite the journey, and I've loved watching George Kittle's maturation process and how he's just risen to the top, and he is the best tight end in the NFL right now. It's not debatable. It's just not. He is performing at the highest level of all tight ends this season, and he has been for a long time. Obviously, when we look at George Kittle, he's so strong in the run game. He blocks so much. It's an underrated element because we live in a stat-driven world, obviously fantasy football and all of those things, and so those are going to be the metrics that are used when charting out who's the best tight end in the NFL. But honestly, at the end of the day, when you look at what George Kittle is, and I've said this for the majority of his career, even when Travis Kelce was in his peak, is that he's a true tight end. He blocks. He's one of the best blockers in the NFL, on top of being one of the best receiving threats at tight end in the NFL as well. There's not too many guys who can say they play like that. So when it comes to George, it's just been super cool to watch it all. Again, I was a fan of George before he was a San Francisco 49er. It was, really cool to see the vision. Like, I saw the vision, I saw the potential. I'd be lying to you if I thought he would be third in 49ers history in receiving yards, but you could see the upside. You could see the potential in what he had, even though he didn't produce all that much in college. And for him to be able to just take off in the pros and just really become one of the top players in the league, one of the faces of the NFL, not only the faces of the franchise, but it's been great. It's been super fun to watch because, he's that guy. He's a guy that is respected by his teammates. He's a phenomenal teammate. He's a phenomenal leader in the locker room. Um, he has the ability to have fun in a pressure packed sport. with a lot of eyes on it and a lot of scrutiny, and he's still able to maintain who he is at his core, and that's hard to do. It really is. In a world that beats you down, and a lot of commentary, a lot of comments, a lot of trolls, a lot of haters, everyone always taking shots, and he's found himself in that scenario. I remember there was a little movement here for a while that people wanted to trade George Kittle and all of these things, and I know he sees that stuff and he hears that stuff, and you know it's never been warranted. I really do hope that when it's all said and done, that George Kittle retires a 49er. I think he deserves to. I think he's earned it. I think um, he just continues to play at a high level. He continues to exceed all expectations. At 30 years old, there's no signs of slowing down. I mean, he's a tough son of a gun. The things that he likely plays through that we don't even know about, he just he puts his nose down and he gets to work. And as a result of that, he is now third in receiving yards in franchise history. Don't worry, George. Only 30 more years that you need to play in the NFL to try to catch Jerry Rice. I mean, Jerry Rice having nearly 20,000 receiving yards in a career is just ridiculous. 176 touchdowns. It's just mind-boggling because I think we can look back at, George Kittle's career and like, yeah, he's had a really solid career. But in the end, that's just insane. It's just a crazy scenario where, I don't know if anyone's going to beat that. I don't know if anyone's going to get close to that. Jerry Rice's numbers are just absolutely diabolical, and he put up some numbers that I don't think will ever be reached. But nonetheless, George Kittle continuing to go out there, continuing to put life and limb on the line to get this team a win, and you got to be happy for having George in the locker room. You got to be happy for having a guy like that around the 49ers. Feels awesome, and again, just really cool to be able to watch his maturation process elevating to the top and maintaining this level of play. And he's really put on for the entire tight end position as well with everything he's doing for tight end U. And it's impossible not to love the guy. And if you got a problem with Kittle, that tells me enough about you. that qualifies you as, I think, we're good not being friends as well, because George is a man. Let me know what you guys think about this in the comments below, and as always, make sure to like and subscribe for more updates.